Imagine sitting at your own dinner table. The scrape of cutlery, the low hum of a radio, the familiar warmth of coffee rising with steam. Now imagine every bite is laced with something you can't see, can't smell, can't taste, and it's already working. In 1930s Philadelphia, husbands, fathers, and neighbors began to drop without warning. After supper, after a nightcap, sometimes in the middle of a laugh. Doctors wrote heart failure, acute gastritis, exhaustion. Families wore black and told themselves it was fate, bad luck, the way of the times. But in those tight South Philly streets, a darker truth crept from kitchen to kitchen. Someone was stirring death into dinner. Welcome to Shadows and Secrets. Tonight we step inside the Philadelphia poison ring, a murder-for-profit network that turned love into leverage and family into opportunity. If stories like this keep you up at night, subscribe now. What you're about to hear will change how you look at a simple cup of coffee. It begins small, as evil often does. A man comes home, boots heavy from a factory floor, sets his hat down, and sits. A bowl of stew, a slice of bread, a soft smile from across the table. Hours later, he's doubled over, breath shallow, fingers cold. The doctor blames his heart. The widow weeps. A policy pays out. Life moves on. On another block, a neighbor shares homemade wine at a kitchen table. The night is loud with conversation. He lifts the glass, swallows, and grimaces at a strange sweetness he can't place. By morning, he's gone. Another funeral. Another sealed casket. Another check. Patterns hide until the wrong person notices them. In an insurance office, a clerk with a careful eye traces names on index cards. Widows from the same streets. Policies open and paid out within months, sometimes weeks. The signatures repeat. The addresses rhyme. The clerk feels a chill first and sends up a quiet alarm. The city, reluctant at first, starts to look. A name rises like a watermark on a damp page. Herman Petrillo. To most, he's just another face in the neighborhood. Ordinary, forgettable. In the back rooms, he's the man who arranges things. Beside him stands his cousin Paul, more shadow than voice, but always near the money. Together they find a simple truth buried in desperate times. Life is hard, death is profitable, and arsenic is cheap. Arsenic lives in flypaper and rat poison, in powders that slip through fingers like flour. In small doses, it imitates illness. In larger ones, it ends a question quickly. It dissolves in coffee, disappears in soup, blends with wine. It doesn't knock. It doesn't announce itself. It just waits. Herman recruits carefully. He finds women with bruised patience and thin purses, wives trapped in marriages that offer no softness, no way out. He doesn't shout. He suggests, what if there were a way to make the pain stop? What if hardship could become relief? Papers appear, insurance policies the husbands never see. Sign here, witness there, keep your head down. Your life changes soon. Some women come to it with trembling hands, eyes fixed on the floor. Others arrive with a practiced calm, already beyond remorse. Around them drifts a small circle of helpers, a neighbor who agrees to be a witness, a friend who knows which agent won't ask hard questions, a shopkeeper who sells what should not be sold to someone who should not have it. It isn't a killer, it's a community, whispered into existence, bound by need, guided by the quiet confidence of men who turn grief into ledgers. Funerals multiply. Undertakers work without pause. On stoops, people shake their heads and talk about the times. In kitchens, some men refuse coffee. A few swear they can smell something different in the stew. The street learns to mistrust itself. A neighbor's casserole becomes a threat. A friendly visit turns into a question. The investigation starts like a stone rolling. Exhumations, autopsies, a whisper of science where there hadn't been enough. Bodies come up from the earth, secrets still inside them. One by one, tests turn blue. Arsenic leaves traces, faint but faithful. The number of suspicious deaths climbs, 10, 20, then higher. Detectives draw lines on a map and discover they've been walking through a web. Stories spill out under pressure. A woman describes how she stirred a powder into her husband's coffee while he read the newspaper, how she counted the seconds before he looked up. Another confesses she was told there was no other way, that the policy would save her children, that no one would ever know. One says she was promised it would be painless. Another says she tasted it herself, just a grain, because she needed to believe it wasn't real. In interrogation rooms, Herman never raises his voice. He speaks the language of transactions, not of blood. He insists he only knew people, introduced them to opportunity, had nothing to do with what they chose to do at their own tables. But the ledgers tell a different story. Columns of names that match headstones, dates that kiss the corners of death certificates, small marks that look like nothing until you realize they're keeping score. The trial unspools like a stage play the city never wanted to see. Reporters arrive early and leave late. The courtroom is thick with perfume and sweat. Some widows come in veils. Others refuse to hide their faces. A few tremble. A few glare. Many won't look at the gallery at all. The judge asks for quiet and gets it when a photograph is passed to the jury. The face of a man alive on a Sunday, dead on a Tuesday, buried on a Friday, paid for by Monday. Witnesses describe packages folded in newspaper, instructions whispered at the market, a teaspoon tapped against a teacup. An agent admits he's suspected and signed anyway. Times are hard, and suspicion doesn't pay bills. A neighbor says she lied once as a favor, and then again because favors become chains. A pharmacist swears he didn't know, but the receipt in his own handwriting disagrees. Outside, the city is divided. Some call the women monsters. Others call them victims of a different kind of violence, the kind that writes itself into years and small humiliations. Some say Herman built a business on misery that was already there. Others say he made misery where it hadn't been, turned desperation into doctrine, love into leverage. The numbers are impossible to agree on. 16, the cautious historians say. 50 or more, whisper detectives who saw too much. Count the policies, the sudden collapses, the exhumations that never happened because the families couldn't bear to open the earth again. The truth is probably larger than any single page can hold. In the end, the verdicts arrive like winter. Herman Petrillo is sentenced to die. Paul follows. Several women are given long years in prison, their futures traded for what they did in dining rooms and kitchens. The day the sentences are read, the courtroom is silent enough to hear a throat clear in the back row. Outside, the headlines are already printed. What remains behind doesn't leave the way a story leaves a page. People change the way they eat. Men pour their own coffee. Some couples stop sharing plates. A few families move 3 streets away, as if distance can cure memory. In the markets, someone starts selling sugar in sealed jars because people want to see the seal break. In certain houses, the clink of a spoon against china becomes a sound that makes hearts race. Years later, a child grown tall will admit he still watches his wife when she cooks. Not out of accusation, but because the city taught him once that love can be a room where you're not safe. Another woman will say she still hides the rat poison high in a cupboard even though they don't have rats anymore. A retired clerk will keep a box of index cards tied with string and tell no one why. Could it happen again? People will tell you no. Science has improved. Oversight is better. Policies are stricter. Pharmacists keep different books now. But what the Philadelphia poison ring revealed isn't just about toxins and papers. It's about what happens when ordinary people learn to count grief as income, when someone offers an exit and asks only for a teaspoon of trust. Every crime leaves a trace, but every secret casts a shadow. Tonight's shadow lies across row houses and kitchen tables, and ordinary lives that were turned into accounts. If this story found you, it's because some doors never fully close. Was this cold greed dressed as opportunity, or desperation carved into murder by men who made it easy? Leave your thoughts below. The story isn't finished until you speak.